Mom, I might be at my limit. I can't eat anything. The intermittent voice was a far cry from Sheila's usual active demeanor, conveying a fragile and weak tone. Sheila seemed to be struggling to find her voice, pleading for help. Sheila, what's going on? What do you mean you can't eat anything? It was clear from Sheila's first plea for help that the situation was serious. Understood. I'll come to pick you up right away. Just wait there. I set out with Samuel to Sheila's father-in-law's house. My name is Stacy Lewis. I will soon be 62 years old. After my husband passed away about 10 years ago, I now live with my eldest son's family and my grandchildren. I took over the management of a small restaurant that my husband founded, and when he died, I was deeply saddened and unsure of what to do with the restaurant. However, thanks to Samuel's encouragement, saying, "I'll take over, so there's no need to close the restaurant filled with memories of Dad," I decided to keep it running. Besides Samuel, I have another child. That would be my daughter, Sheila. Sheila is already married and lives with her husband. She has a son who will soon start elementary school. And she mentioned, "We're thinking of celebrating my son's first school day at your restaurant. I want to report it to Dad too." It seems Sheila had been planning this with her in-laws for some time. When I heard the news, I felt profound joy and was excitedly anticipating that day. However, on that special day, Sheila's father-in-law suddenly fell ill and was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, he passed away. At the funeral, seeing Violet Torres, Sheila's mother-in-law, in deep grief and shedding tears, my own memories of losing my husband resurfaced, and I remembered the days when I had lost my appetite. I could painfully understand what Violet was feeling. "Violet, it's hard, but I've experienced something similar. I was able to get through it with the support of my children and grandchildren. When your heart settles a bit, please show us your smile again." I couldn't just watch, I had to offer words of encouragement. In this way, we are each overcoming our grief and slowly finding the strength to move forward. However, I was indeed surprised by Violet's unexpected response. "Don't act like you understand. Despite losing your husband, you kept running the restaurant as if nothing happened," she said, glaring at me harshly. Surprised by her reaction, I understood that emotions could be unstable in such times, so I decided to let her words pass without being deeply hurt. I also understood the state of mind that might lead someone to say things they didn't want to say in tough situations. Therefore, without responding further, I exchanged a few simple greetings and left to return home. Months passed, and it was nearing the time for Sheila's son to start elementary school. I had a strong desire to attend my grandson's special day and witness his growth, but the Torres family was busy dealing with the bereavement, and I felt that the timing was not right. During this period, I suddenly received a call from Sheila, whom I had not heard from in a long time. "Mom, how are you? Sorry we haven't spoken in a while." Sheila's voice had regained its brightness. "I'm fine. You must be busy with the school preparations too. How has Violet been lately? Has she calmed down a bit?" Relieved to hear Sheila's voice after so long, I asked about Violet's recent condition. Since the funeral, conversations with Violet had become somewhat strained, and there had been no direct meetings. Still, I was worried about her and genuinely wanted to know how she was managing. She seems to be regaining some energy recently, but she's also been going out more. Maybe it's a distraction, Sheila said, her voice slightly unsettled, which made me feel uneasy and prompted further inquiry. "Is something wrong? You seemed to lose energy suddenly when you started talking about Violet, I asked, and Sheila hesitated before responding. It's not a big deal, but recently, she's been coming home drunk sometimes, and that worries me. Also, she began, and I became even more concerned. That is indeed troubling. But are there any other worries? I asked, and after a pause, Sheila began to speak in a more settled tone. Actually, after my father-in-law's funeral, my mother-in-law started living with us, and she doesn't do any household chores. I'm currently bearing all the responsibilities of the home. I think it's unavoidable, Sheila explained. Then, as if she had just remembered, she continued. I contacted you about the school entrance celebration. With the recent news of my father-in-law's death, I thought there was no room to consider a celebration. So I want to cancel the celebration we originally planned at your restaurant, Sheila proposed. Indeed, Violet might still be recovering, so it's worrying how she might react. But there definitely has to be a way to celebrate. What would be appropriate? I wondered aloud. It was disappointing that I couldn't attend my grandson's entrance ceremony, but I at least wanted to send a special gift to celebrate this milestone. Nevertheless, Sheila's response was unexpected. That's okay. I appreciate the thought alone. By the way, I need to start doing housework soon, so let's talk about this later, she said. I wanted to ask her the reason behind her abrupt end to the conversation, but Sheila didn't elaborate further and quickly ended the call. Her cold attitude left me feeling uneasy. I was quite concerned by her words that no celebration or blessing was necessary, as the meaning behind them was unclear. Initially, our conversation was normal, but as soon as I mentioned sending a gift, she abruptly changed the topic and ended the call. After discussing this with my eldest son, Samuel, and his family, they also suggested sending the gift by mail. While I strongly wished to see my grandson, I decided it might be bothersome for Sheila if I visited forcibly, so I ultimately chose to send the gift by mail. A few days later, after much deliberation on what to send as a school entrance gift, I chose a small bookshelf that would always be useful and sent it. However, I became worried when I hadn't heard from Sheila, suspecting the item might not have been received, so I decided to call her myself. Sheila? I sent a gift for your son, but I haven't heard back from you. Did you receive it? I asked. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been really busy lately and my response was delayed. But it has arrived safely. I truly appreciate it, Sheila answered. We continued to talk a little more, but Sheila's voice lacked its usual energy, and she seemed different from before. Concerned, I asked, "Are you okay? You don't seem as energetic as usual." No, there's nothing in particular. I'm just really busy. Sorry, but I need to hang up now. But thank you for the entrance gift, Sheila said, and ended the conversation. Her curt and brief responses left me confused and increasingly anxious. However, I tried to convince myself that it might just be a figment of my imagination, reassuring myself that Sheila was merely busy. Weeks passed with no further contact from Sheila, and the previous conversation lingered in my mind. Troubled by this, I decided to bring it up with my son, Samuel, and seek his advice. Sheila has always been reluctant to talk about her issues. I understand your concern, Mom, but maybe she dislikes parental interference, Samuel said. That's true. She's an adult, so I shouldn't worry too much, and I think it might not be right to contact or visit her too frequently. Besides, if our last call had been normal, I wouldn't have had to worry so much, I replied. Despite my growing anxiety, I strongly felt the need to avoid being too intrusive, knowing Sheila had her own family. In the midst of this, Samuel hesitated slightly before speaking softly. I don't know if I should really say this, but there's something that has been bothering me for a long time, he began. What? Do you know something? I asked, a mix of anticipation and anxiety in my voice. After a brief silence, Samuel spoke hesitantly. To be honest, I've occasionally seen Sheila's mother-in-law at a bar I sometimes go to. Moreover, she's always seen walking closely with a young man. At first I thought I was mistaken and overlooked it, but after witnessing the same scene several times, it started to bother me. Really? I can't imagine Violet doing such a thing. She was devastated by her husband's loss. I immediately countered in surprise. However, Sheila had also mentioned that since her father-in-law's death, Violet had been going out more and often came home drunk. Maybe she's trying to distract herself from her loneliness by going out. Thinking about it, Samuel's observation might have some truth to it. Samuel isn't the type to lie, and there's no reason for him to do so. Maybe Sheila's recent lack of energy could be influenced by Violet? However, since I haven't witnessed it myself and it's only what Samuel has told me, it's hard to judge. Then, I'll ask around with my friends. I can't go out much because of the store, but maybe my drinking buddies might have some information, Samuel suggested. I was torn about whether to investigate further but decided to ask for help, hoping it was unrelated to Sheila. Time passed, and nearly half a year had gone by. I hadn't heard from Sheila for a while, and her father-in-law's first death anniversary was approaching. I was concerned about Sheila's situation but understood she might not talk about it herself, so I quietly waited for her to contact me. I expected some communication as the anniversary drew near. That night, the phone at the restaurant rang. Sheila? Is that really you, Sheila? I exclaimed loudly, momentarily forgetting my surroundings after hearing her voice for the first time in a while. Sheila, what's happening? I can't hear you clearly. Mom, I might be at my limit. I can't eat anything. Her voice came through intermittently, conveying a fragility unlike the active Sheila I knew before. It was clear she was struggling to muster her voice to plead for help. Sheila, what do you mean you can't eat anything? As I asked this, Samuel and the other customers grew quiet, trying to grasp the situation. Samuel then switched the phone to speaker mode. I can't stay in this house anymore. I'm handling everything at home and taking care of my mother-in-law. The exhaustion and stress have made me lose my appetite. Sheila's plea was evident as she struggled to speak. Hearing this, the customers urged, "You must go help her right away." Understood. I'll go and pick you up immediately. Just wait there. One of the customers advised Samuel to come along, and I expressed my gratitude before rushing back to grab the keys. After leaving the restaurant in charge of Samuel's wife, we set off for Sheila's father-in-law's house. During the drive, we quietly hoped for Sheila's safety. Knowing that Sheila, who normally never shows weakness, had asked for help indicated a serious situation. I pondered what could have driven Sheila to this breaking point. As we drove, we arrived at her father-in-law's house before realizing it, and it was already past 10 p.m. Feeling apologetic for the late visit but driven by anxiety, I pressed the intercom. "Yes, who is it at this late hour?" came the response, and the door opened to reveal Violet, who appeared drunk and greeted us with a smile. I'm sorry to come by so late, Violet. Where is Sheila? What's the matter, Stacy? You look frightened. Did Sheila call you? I've been feeling lonely by myself. Violet seemed to be drunk as she cheerfully continued talking. Then she took my hand and tried to pull me towards an inner room like a child. I reflexively shook off her hand and raised my voice. Please tell me where Sheila is. I've come to pick her up. Violet stopped and gave me a sharp look that reminded me of the funeral. Why pick her up? I mean it. Violet could not hide her irritation, but I responded directly. Just then, I heard a voice from behind say, Mom. So I looked in that direction. A gaunt Sheila stood there, staggering as she walked. Sheila, are you okay? You look so thin. And you say you can't even swallow food. What happened? Seeing her, I became worried about what had caused her to be this way. Normally active, it was distressing to see her suffering like this. While I thought this, Sheila began to speak quietly. I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go home. What are you talking about? This is your home, isn't it? Faced with Violet's fury, Sheila calmly began to argue. I can't bear it anymore. I'm leaving this house. I can't handle the responsibility of the household and taking care of you anymore. She asserted this and grabbed my arm, explaining what had happened. After her father-in-law's death, Violet completely abandoned household duties. Initially, Sheila watched over her, thinking Violet was just shocked and unable to move, but gradually Violet began to go out and came home drunk late at night. I was concerned about her health, but thought occasional drinking was forgivable. However, she has been drinking almost every night now. Additionally, I've had to pick her up late at night or was suddenly called out. There were times I returned home just before dawn, even though there's school for the children. That late? Doesn't your husband say anything? Sheila answered, I've talked to him, but my mother-in-law doesn't listen. Gradually it became, I'll watch the kids, so please take care of Mom. That pressure slowly turned into stress, and before I knew it, I lost my appetite. Hearing Sheila's words, I was shocked and at a loss for words. Suddenly Violet, who had been silent, said something unexpected. Since you've come to this house, it's your duty to take care of me. Violet, what are you saying? Sheila is not a slave. You push the household chores onto her and go out late at night. And you expect her to prioritize you over her own children. Why is that bad? I am the head of this house. It's only natural for you to follow my orders. Realizing that my words were not getting through, I was thinking about the next steps when I heard the front door open. I suddenly realized I had forgotten something important and hurried towards the door. I'm sorry. I was so worried about Sheila that I completely forgot about everything else. As I spoke, a man entered with a smile, saying, No problem. Hey, why are you here? Violet started trembling as she saw the man. The reason was clear. He was Parker, the young man Violet had been meeting night after night. The surprise affected not just Violet but also Sheila. Mom, why are you with him? As Sheila asked, I prepared to explain the situation to the two surprised parties. Samuel had been investigating. He witnessed Violet and Parker together several times. Actually, Parker used to be a subordinate of Samuel's. He has shared quite a lot of details with us. As Violet became uncomfortable, I continued to inquire, Did you meet at a bar? And then quickly started going out together, right? There must be more to it, isn't there? Violet's face changed color, and she suddenly became furious. "So you made Parker tell everything? Since he was your subordinate, did you pressure him into telling you everything?" I was taken aback by her reaction and searched for words to reply, but then Parker calmly spoke up. "Thank you for everything so far, Sheila. You don't have to worry anymore. Please feel free to return to your family home." As he said this, he approached Violet and began to speak. Parker told Violet, "We've informed Sheila's family about everything. Let's not burden her any further." "Why? I'm not causing Sheila any pain," Violet protested. Parker responded firmly, "When we first met, Sheila was much healthier than she is now. She has lost a lot of weight and her complexion has worsened. Please do not make her suffer anymore." Hearing this, Violet hesitantly looked towards Sheila. I hoped that Violet would finally understand the gravity of the situation, but her response was unexpected. "So what? Sheila is a part of this household, and it's only natural for her to take care of me. Isn't that right?" "Sheila." Violet sought agreement from Sheila. However, Sheila stood her ground and countered, "I can't endure it anymore. No matter what you say, I'm returning to my parents' home." She said this decisively, clutching my arm even as she trembled. Seeing this, Violet spoke again, "I won't allow it. I will never allow you to leave this house." Without responding to Sheila's resolve, Violet started walking towards the front door. I was at a loss. I wanted to find a way to take Sheila away from here and protect her. At that moment, Parker approached Violet, took her hand, and said, "I'm truly glad to see you're feeling better. Violet, ever since we first met, I have been waiting for the day when you would smile genuinely. You helped me find my spirit again," Violet said with a smile, but Parker's smile had vanished. His expression turned grave as he continued, "While I'm glad you care about me, Violet, I cannot respect someone who does not consider her family." "What are you talking about?" "I do care about my family," Violet retorted, to which Parker showed a look of astonishment. I decided to silently observe this scene. I wanted to somehow convince Violet to accept the situation, and I wanted her to fully understand the current circumstances. If that's the case, shouldn't you have been happy about your grandson's school entrance, even if it was just after your husband passed away? If you don't do that, even your husband in heaven won't be at peace," Parker said sternly. Violet was left speechless and lowered her head. Despite her silence, Parker continued to speak. "Furthermore, take another look at Sheila. If you really care about family, how do you feel about her current situation? Seeing her thin and suffering, can you still say you care about family? That's unavoidable because she's married into the family. It's all for everyone's good," she replied. Then, the previously calm Parker shouted in anger, "Accept reality. How much more do you need to hurt her to be satisfied?" Violet was shocked by this outburst and looked at Sheila again, finally realizing the severity of the situation from Sheila's trembling form, and collapsed right there. "I'm so sorry. What have I been doing?" Violet said tearfully. I moved closer to her and soothed her back, saying, "Violet, I understand it's lonely without your husband, but you can't make yourself happy by making someone else suffer. I'm really sorry," Violet repeated, crying. After that, the conversation calmed down, and Sheila was able to safely return home. Sheila's husband, recognizing his part in the situation, readily accepted her decision to file for divorce. The children were also happy to be able to live in our house with Sheila. Meanwhile, Violet ended her relationship with Parker, but I heard from Samuel's friend that Parker really did care about Violet. However, it seemed that Parker was concerned about Sheila getting involved regularly in transportations. When Samuel asked about Violet, Parker decided to confess his true feelings. Hearing Parker's true intentions, Violet was shocked and fell ill. The reason for her bedridden state was not only because Parker broke up with her, but also because she believed that her actions had driven her daughter-in-law and grandchildren out of the house. Still, this incident might have been a moment for Violet to reflect on her actions towards Sheila. Later, we took Sheila to the hospital for a checkup. The examination showed no physical issues, but the diagnosis was that the stress from the past would not easily go away. This made me more determined to take even better care of Sheila. Nevertheless, since returning to her hometown, she has been smiling a bit more, which has been a relief. "Mom, I'm hungry. Can you make something?" "Sure, I'll whip something up with what we have left. Just wait a bit." "Okay." Recently, Sheila's appetite has returned, and she has become confident enough to ask for food even when there are guests around. Visitors to the restaurant also comment with a smile that not only Sheila but also my grandchildren are regaining their childlike spirits. Everyone chats and laughs, all the while hoping for Sheila's swift recovery.